Come on, girls, get on the floor. What's up? What's happening, Panky? I see it's Panky in the house. I was listening to Mariah Carey with ODB a little earlier, so anything might come out my mouth right about now. What's happening, people? Can you hear me, Panky? Is everything good? Ah, I said a one, two, three, four. Come on, girl, get on the floor. I feel a little out of sorts tonight. I don't know why. Maybe so much is happening. Okay, what up, Cynthia Mary? Ah, uh-oh. I see somebody in the house throwing up thumbs up on the other side. So I'm looking at all that's going on. I'm just gonna talk about a couple things. Um, then I'm gonna try to get out of here. I've been a little long-winded lately, and I guess it's because so much is happening. So blame it on the rain or whatever. It ain't my fault. Um, I've been watching what's going on. You folks in Pennsylvania, you guys got a escaped murderer on the loose. Been loose for about 8 days. The folks can't handle jail time. I'm gonna have to talk about that. I'm gonna have to talk about that. I'm gonna have to talk about that because folks been asking me. There's two things that people have been coming at me with. Either some woman is dating some guy who's a little scandalous, and here lately it's been, I guess you might want to say, these women have been dating these preachers, and these preachers have been a little unscrupulous. So it's been one thing after another, after another, after another. So I don't know. I don't know, but people have been asking me about. I got in a little bit of a debate with a lady today about Trump and his cases and whether or not he's going to jail and so forth and so on. And I've talked about it before, but I guess I'll talk about it again because I don't know if you guys have heard the latest. Let's see. So anyway, I'll deal with it as it comes up. They're going crazy. I watched this guy do this little shimmy. He put his feet up against one wall. He put his hands and he walked up the wall like a spider, I guess, to an opening and climbed out of the yard or whatever. But he's been um, missing for about, he's been on the loose for about 8 days now. And I don't know, it's just what's going on. So there's some things that we can't avoid. What's popping in my head is this ball of confusion has been playing like ad nauseum in my head. People moving out, people moving in it, all being judged by the color of their skin. An eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth. Vote for me, I'll set you free. Some of y'all that's older than me, y'all remember that Temptations, ball of confusion, evolution, revolution, sign of soul, shooting rockets to the moon, kids growing up too soon. Politicians said more taxes will solve everything, and the band played on. So since everybody's been asking me about it, I'm gonna do a little of that and a little of this. But I kind of had this thing in my head. Um, I did the series, most of you know, on black relationships. So I'm gonna say this one more again. Y'all come on in, take your seat, throw brothers some kisses. Guys, y'all don't have to throw me no kisses. Y'all can throw me some thumbs up. What's up, Burbank? The voodoo. I don't know if I should call you voodoo child or what, but he be working his thing on. He in Vegas or in New Orleans tonight, man. His brother, he's just got sin in him. He's either in New Orleans causing sin or he's in Vegas participating in sin. But I ain't throwing daggers at you. You know, you do you voodoo? So what's happening? My mic sounds nice. Check one. My mic sounds nice. Check two. It's all right. I got a couple new people. I see some new faces in the house. Come on in. We got one little rule when you come in. Throw me some kisses. Throw me some hands up. Throw me some thumbs up. Show me some love because otherwise I don't know if you're here. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell who's here and who's not. Nay, nay. So what you gonna say? I thought about you earlier. I shared this little thing on Randall Cunningham. Yeah, Randall was my boy. They asked him when he was jumping all over people. Before there was a Cam Newton, there was a Randall Cunningham. You know, and Randall was jumping all over offenses, defenses, your fence, my fence, Miss Jones' fence. And they asked Randall, what make you think you could fly? He said, I'm an eagle. So Randall Cunningham, shout out to number 12, old quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yep, yep, yep. I thought of you, Nay, and I thought of Fred too. I said back then, I'm sure Fred was losing his mind. Rest in peace, animal. Um, yeah, yep, yep, yep. So we're doing this thing here. I'm just trying to see what's going on in the world, and Trump is headed towards another federal indictment. Um, Jack Smith has reconvened the jury, if you will, the grand jury. It looks like he's going to throw some more charges at Trump. I'm thinking, and I'm wondering what's been taking so long because there are two things that's been happening that I thought somebody should have acted on a long time ago. But I'll touch on that in a little bit. I know it's about 10 past the half, so before I do anything else, I want to say good evening and welcome to the show. I try to come on directly at 7:30 tonight because sometimes I get a little long-winded and I want you guys to be able to come in, quench your thirsty Thursday thirst, and get on about your business. So if y'all checked out the do, yeah, I think I'm going from a LeBron to a Michael Jordan here. You know, um, last week I bent over and I saw the top of my head. I was like, "Yo, man, bro, you really bald in there." So I felt like LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? It's not that bad till the light hit it. When the light hit it, when the scalp show through, it's probably time for you to do some things. Yeah, I'm not really an Eagles fan either, but I'm a black quarterback fan. So back in the day, I pulled for Randall Cunningham, no doubt, no doubt. Um, Dante Culpepper, of course, Michael Vick. Um, Being in Atlanta, I was in Atlanta at the time. Once upon a time, I liked Vic and couldn't stand his behind either, because his cousin Aaron was in New Orleans, and it seems like we just couldn't beat him because Aaron was still thinking of Mike beating him way back when in Virginia, what have you. And then I saw this thing on what's his name? What's my man's name? AI, Allen Iverson. Thank you, babe. You say the sweetest things. She said I'm still handsome. Well, it's not an idea of that. It's just that I like the way that I like the way the hair shapes my head. When I have no hair on my head, I have flashbacks to being in the Marine Corps in boot camp with the chrome dome. That's what they used to call it. So I like to have some kind of little fuzz up there. So I might go like this. I might go a little close. I don't know. But when I did this, I decided to cut off the beard and stuff as well. And I try to keep some hair on my face because these young girls are they are relentless. Um, so before I go any further, I want to say, you know, good evening, welcome to the show. This is Omit da Logic. I am Hank Batiste. I'm your host tonight, as I am every Thursday night. And before I start the show, I always say I'm truly humbled that each and every week you choose to be here. Of all the things you could be doing on a Thursday night, you choose to be here listening to me try to break down some of this illogical jargon that's going on in the news and current events and so forth and so on. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, if you're in Pennsylvania, because this really wasn't in Philly, but this boy could be anyway. Um, CNN, MSNBC, and the others was showing this kid as he Spider-Maned up the wall. He killed somebody in Brazil, where he's from, and then he killed somebody here. He was in jail and he climbed up the wall and escaped, and he's been on the loose for about 8 days. So no telling where he could be now. It seems like he's staying in the area that he's familiar with, but you never know. My homie's in the house. Um, all the things you could be doing on a Thursday night, you choose to be here, and for that I am truly humbled. And I know I'm being redundant, but I really am. I'm a little cocky, just a little. I'm very confident and just a little cocky, but sunshine's throwing shade. What's up? But it really humbles me that you guys choose to come here. The voices in my head tonight are truly amused. When I look at all that's happening, Jack Smith, the federal prosecutor, is has reconvened a grand jury. He's looking at tacking on more charges, probably against Trump and maybe some of those unknown defendants, uncharged defendants, I should say. So that's what's happening. But the thing that gets me is it seems like Trump has just been pushing the envelope and they've been giving him free reign to say what he wants. The good thing about that is it just makes him look, for lack of a better word, crazier. It makes it, I think it makes the charges just seem more real. But on the downside, it poisons the jury pool, so to speak. Because if they go ahead and they throw this idiot in jail now for basically going against the gag order, for intimidating possible witnesses and federal judges and prosecutors and so forth and so on, it gives way to that two-thirds of the Republicans who feel like he's really done quote unquote nothing wrong. And I don't know what kind of blinders you have to be looking at life through to not be able to see what he's doing. Hence my sense of amusement with the voices in my head. On the other hand, more and more people are starting to say what I've been saying all along. I'm not really a Democrat, but the Democrats on paper, let me just put that out there. The Democrats on paper are more in line into some of the things that I believe far as social justice and civil rights are concerned. But neither one of the parties, and that's what I've been trying to teach over the last 2 or 3 weeks, the great compromise that followed the bicentennial election, I mean, the centennial election of 1876, and a great compromise that transpired in 1877 as a result of there being a dead heat for president and there being some backroom concessions made. The Democrats agreed to allow Rutherford B. Hayes to become president in exchange for halting Reconstruction and pulling the federal troops out of the South. And that gave way to what we know as Jim Crow. So I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't drink any political party's Kool-Aid. That's why I'm just as hard on Pelosi as I am on Trump and his minions, his disciples, and what have you, what have you. And it's just amazing that you haven't heard anything but anything from Nancy. You know, she's occupying a seat, but you don't hear nothing from her now. Now is the time where she really could be doing some things because she doesn't have the weight of Speaker of the House on her back. So she should be rallying those so-called conservatives in the Democratic Party. She should be working with Hakeem Jeffries to make things happen, but she doesn't want Hakeem to be too successful because if something happens and they win the House back, of course she's going to be looking for the gavel. This brings to mind, last week I mentioned to you about this young political. They're not an action committee yet. They're not a PAC. They're not a political action committee. But I could see that's where it's going. It's this young white boy and some of his disciples. And I use the term not racist, but I use it to describe the group because he's been raising money and promoting some people, but he's also been making a name for himself. And it's obvious that he has political aspirations. He calls the group leaders we need. Who are we? And who decides on who these leaders are and who are they representing? Who needs them? Is it more of the same? Is it a new generation of, what I call white privileged people that are just going to preserve the status quo, or is there true diversity in there? And if there is, do they have a voice in deciding on where the money goes and what have you? So these are some of the things that I think about. I guess I talk about the things that I do, hoping that some of the young people will really get into it and not just with the lip service, but actually start coming together to form some organizations. And I would gladly help in that because at my age, we should be a elder. We should be helping to shape and mold. And I think that's what happens. When I think of how these other people are being raised at a young age to be a part of the system. When I think about those people that are quote unquote conservative now, back in their day, they were fighting against the Vietnam. They were fighting the government for this, that, or the other. And now they are the establishment that they profess to detest in the 60s and going into the 70s. So one thing happens, we see this evolution of what I call progressive. And I didn't say progressives, I said progressives because I think there's nothing, let me back off that. I'm gonna just chill with that. I just wonder who they're representing and what are their goals. You know, they say things that are popular like LGBTQ plus community, and they say things about abortion. But what's the ulterior motive? Is just the seeking power? What the you know? So it is what it is. But we've got to get our children. We've got to get the next list, the next generation of black leaders. And we have to have them groomed to feel responsible to make sure that we get some of the rights that we're losing. Um, what's happening? When I see what's happening now, I, I've been during the week. I get calls, I get texts, I get inbox messages um, from people that either watch my show or close to me, and they pose questions, and sometimes we get into nice little debates. Sunshine throwing shade used to do that too, but she's big stuff now. She's got a new job, so I'm not gonna pick on you. Yes, I am, but just not tonight. Um, and in doing so, the two questions that I have been fielding this week have had something to do with our black relationships, male and female relationships. And I've had two friends, girlfriends, who have come to me, I guess, amazed that they were dating, quote unquote, a preacher, whatever they call themselves, according to whatever religious doctrine they follow, and how this person mistreated them. And I said, well, first thing you have to understand, people are choosing the religious profession just like that people are choosing to become a doctor or a mechanic. It's something that they want to do. I would surmise to you that not as many of them are actually called. Not as many of them uh, believe in promoting something more than themselves. Me and my brother, we grew up in a church together. We sang in choirs together, and we were raised from a spiritual perspective by a man that set the bar pretty high for me when it came to my expectations as a church leader because he was very unselfish. He didn't pimp the church. He didn't, we had a doctrine that said that we will contribute of our property according to how God has prospered us. So we didn't have to submit a W 2 or W 4 form. We didn't have to have tithes um, donated to the church or taken out of our check like it was another tax, if you will. So I have that. And as a result, I've not really been a member of a church for a long time. That has nothing to do with my spirituality, because I always say I don't need anyone to advocate to God on my behalf. I have a relationship with God on my own. So I can talk to him anytime. And whenever I'm having a bad day, once upon a time, if I chose to, I could call Reverend Hardy. I had his number and he would pick up the phone. He was Reverend Hardy. You understand? And everybody in the church had that same relationship with him. And through him, we felt this fellowship, if you will. Nowadays, it seems that preachers are preaching prosperity. They're preaching how do we make this church bigger and me more prosperous, which is what it really means. So when a woman comes to me and she says, "But he's a preacher," I said, "No, he's a man who preaches," and there's a difference. If you have a 3 foot picture of Jesus and a 9 foot picture of the pastor, who are we really worshiping here? So, ladies, when you get into a relationship, simply because someone wears a cross around their neck and they say God is good all the time, and all the time God is good, doesn't make them a good man. It doesn't, they're a man first. And we have to understand that none of us are perfect. So, a woman told me this preacher used to, uh, he went out of his way to woo her. He sent limos to pick her up and deliver flowers to her and this, that, and the other. And after he got with her, she come to find out that he was still married, and she didn't expect that kind of behavior from somebody of the cloth. And I says, "Well, so then he came to live with her for a while, and she thought everything was cool until I guess he and his ex-wife or whatever, the woman he was separated from. That, and that's the other thing. I don't know how you could go to a church and not know the first lady of the church. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how churches are run these days. I really don't. But if they're that impersonal that you don't even know who's who in the church, or the man that's standing in the pulpit is wooing that many women in the church, I'm done with it. I'm done. So, ladies, the moral of the story is a man is a man, imperfect, with the same little hangups. Just because he stands in the pulpit and he preaches the word, and he may be very good in preaching the word, that doesn't make him truly godly or Jesus like. So I'm done. And guys, there are women, evangelists and preachers and what have you. So it's on both sides of the fence. That's all I got to say about that. The Trump thing, like I say, Jack Smith is looking at this, and I think he's going to go after Trump. With Trump bragged that the day after his mugshot was taken, he raised over $7.5 million. We know that a great deal of that money is being used to fight these legal battles in Georgia and in Michigan and in wherever, Kentucky, the moon, uh, Stalag 13, or wherever they may be. So I think on one hand, and this is just me spitballing, I think Jack Smith is going to come at him for that misuse of those campaign funds. So that's a fraud thing. If monies were done, anytime you do something by wire or utilizing the mail or what have you, it becomes a federal thing. If we do it hand in hand, then that's local. But when we start using things like the internet and what have you, and it crosses state lines, then it gets a little sticky and it becomes more federal. So I think that's one of the things that the grand jury has been reconvened for. The other thing is, I think he's ready to start talking about some of the unnamed, uncharged, unindicted co-defendants. When we look at this week, Enrique, what's his name, the leader of the Proud Boys, He received 17 years for participating in the failed coup d'etat. They could call it a whatever they want to call it. It was a failed coup d'etat. The other guy, I think it was the Oath Keepers, he received 18 years. Now, what happened to those folks? And I'm not going to say his name, but I'll say Dick, the radio host, who's a big part of Trump's racist strategy, who had his radio show and who was telling the Trump disciples, be in DC, make sure you're there. It's going to be a wild time. And inciting these people, inviting these people to the nation's capital to create this onslaught that tried to take over the government on January the 6th. So, why hasn't he been convicted and received that kind of sentence? Why has his trial been delayed so? So, we'll have to wait and see. So I think they're going to start naming some more co-defendants when they start to see 17, 18 years being handed out like lunch. I think some people are going to start to talk. Mark Meadows was convicted, um, and I won't even get into all of that. So I think that's the strategy. I think that's what's going on. Uh, when it happens, invariably, I get the calls, I get the texts, I get the emails, I get the this, I get the that, I get the, and everybody say his ass needs to go to jail. And I said, yes. I said, but America has showed me two things. A, if they were serious about jailing him, the first time he spoke out against um, Fanny, he would have been arrested because he disobeyed the gag order. The first time he talked about Jack Smith, a federal prosecutor, he would have been jailed because he disobeyed the gag order. The first time he went on this tirade on his social media platform and started to tell these people to do this, to do that, and do the other, and they start threatening people, he would have been jailed. So I think America is leery about throwing him in jail. That's one. So, do I think he's actually going to be convicted? Do I think he's actually going to go to jail? Said that once before. Let me break this down. In a perfect world like America, one third of Americans are Democrats, one third are Republicans, another third, the remaining third, are independents. They're not affiliated with either political party. Let's just focus on that third that are Republicans. Over 68% now believe that somehow despicable Donnie the demagogue did nothing wrong, which means if a jury is comprised of 12 people, and let's just say that the makeup of that jury reflects the makeup of the political parties in America, which means we have 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 4 independents. Let's just say, for the sake of easiness and argument, in a trial like this, it takes 12 unanimous people being on the same page, takes 12 people coming together to say that Trump is guilty of inciting the riot, of trying to overthrow, of making a call that said, I need 11,000, just one more vote, then, and so that we can get Georgia. It takes 12 people, even though we've got phone calls, even though we got this, that, and the other. 68, that's 2/3. That's a little more than 2/3, which means if there are 4 Republicans on the jury, one of them would be 25%. Two of them would be 50%. Three of them would be 75%. All it takes is one that feels like, what he did was overzealous, but I don't think it was criminal, and chooses to not convict. And he gets off scot free. So the likelihood of him being convicted, found guilty, it's about 3 in 10. Um, but let's say, for the sake of argument, that we find 12 people who can honestly, when they're being interviewed by the prosecutor and the defense attorneys for Trump, and they're asked, what's your political affiliation? Despite your political affiliation, do you think that you can judge or make a decision solely on the evidence that's presented to you? Well, anybody that could listen to this phone call and say that they don't think he did anything wrong is a liar. If they lied about that, what makes you think they couldn't sit there with a straight face and say, oh, yes, I could do that? So now you have what we call a ringer in the jury box. So after they present all of this overwhelming evidence, their mind was already made up. Because all it takes is this idiot to say what he's been saying lately, that I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that there was some things going on. I really felt in my heart of hearts that I was cheated out of this election. Despite in the state of Georgia, where Kemp beat Stacey Abrams, despite in all of these swing states where Republicans won overwhelmingly, and the only Republican on the ticket that lost was Donald J. Trump. So how is it everybody could make it over the finish line in first place except you? Doesn't make sense. So when he said to his aide, I can't believe I lost to that SOB, he knew that he lost. So somebody that like Rudy Giuliani, who says, back in the day when I was running and David Dinkins beat me in the state of New York, I should have did what I'm telling you to do now. I should have said that I was cheated out of it. Maybe that's where it started. Because remember, Trump lived in New York City, hence the relationship between him and Rudy. So I think that's where the lie started. And then, and I hate to say this, but Republican is spelled WHITE, white, PRI, privilege, white privilege. And if this is true, we see what people will do. It doesn't have to be anything in it for them. It just has to be preserving the white status quo, the white privilege. Now, notice when I say this, nobody has ever called me racist because everybody knows it's true. So I'm not being racist because some of my best friends are white, and I have certainly dated white women. Well, yes, sisters, I have. So it's not me stating something that's racist. It's me making observations on proven fact. So anybody that want to call me on it, I can show you irrefutable evidence to support my claims. So you can't deny it. Poor white people, all they have, they may be living in a I don't want to say shithole. They may be living in a trailer in the middle of Paducah, Kentucky, a backwoods West Virginia, and some hill, and they barely have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out. But the one thing they have is their white skin. So they go along with those people that's gone. Because when there was a person in there by the name of Obama, black folks say he didn't do anything for us. White folks say he did everything for black folks. And there is the social divide. It's based solely on how you see the world, based upon your how you were raised, your own. I don't want to use the word prejudices, but the things that were taught to you. That's all I got to say about that. Last thing, when I talk about this little white group, the leaders we need, I was one of the first to say run, Joe, run. On the day of the inauguration, it was glaringly obvious to me that Trump didn't have an idea of what he was doing. And at that point in time, I said that the most logical choice to take him down would be Joe Biden because he had spent 8 years in the Obama administration. And when Obama needed things done like health care, universal health care, he sent Joe up on a hill and Joe did what Joe did. And at that same time, I said, run, Joe, run. And in the same sentence, in the same breath, I said, but it has to be a one term because he's getting old. And in the same breath, I also said, there are two Joe Bidens. There's the Joe Biden that beat up on Anita Hill and twisted arms to put Clarence Thomas not just on the Supreme Court, but in a chair that was once occupied by Thurgood Marshall, the Honorable Thurgood Marshall. So that was the one Joe Biden. Well, we thought he had evolved. And we saw the second Joe Biden, the junkyard dog that got things done for Obama as the vice president. The guy who was a little unfiltered at times and said what he said. And sometimes Obama just have to reel him in. But on the other hand, he was like, I'm glad Joe said it because I couldn't say it. So I was hoping, wishing, and praying when I said in that same breath, I hope the Joe Biden that we get is the latter, the junkyard dog. Now, when we look at what we are faced with, too many people are talking about Biden Trump part two, like they're Ali Frazier. I've been saying all along, it's time for some fresh blood. It's time for these Mitch McConnells and these Joe Bidens and these Nancy Pelosi's and these Chuck Schumers and even them Joe Mancins to make way, not necessarily for the Christian cinemas, but some young people that have not been tainted yet to come in with some fresh idealistic ideas. Hmm. Then I'm watching this thing on CNN, and they're talking about the percentage of Democrats that want to see anybody but Joe. Anybody but Joe. Anybody but Joe. Well, mind you, we're almost halfway through September. So we got less than 18 months before we're looking at the next presidential election. On the Republican side, there's a plethora of candidates. Out of respect on the Democratic side, Joe has not had the presence of mind, no pun intended, to say, I open the field. I'm standing on my record as president. So if anybody in that political arena is listening to me, take this message to Mr. Biden. If you feel this strongly about your record, which has been good in the last 3 years, I challenge you to invite others to oppose you. If you feel like you've been doing that good a job, but if more than 2/3 of Democrats are saying anybody but Joe, what that translates to me is if we get a Vaswami, Sim Sim Salabim, whatever his name is, or heaven forbid, we get a Ronald Satanic DeSantis, or even a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with all of his conspiracy theories, running against Biden, it's going to be the same thing that happened when Trump ran against Clinton, Hillary Clinton. It's not that they were voting for Trump the first time, they were voting against Hillary. So in 2024, what I do not want to see happen is a repeat where they're not voting for his opponent, but they're voting against Biden. Because, like McConnell, Biden is starting to disappear before our eyes. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. Do me a favor. Before you go, first of all, make sure you share this because I think there's some people out there that needs to hear this. But before you go to my YouTube, Omit da Logic, OMITdaLogic. Sign up, subscribe, ring the bell, and share it. Leave me some thumbs up. Tell me what you liked about the show. Tell me what you didn't like. I'm a big boy. I got broad shoulders. I can carry it. And if you do that, I'll see you right here next time. Same week, same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. Remember what I always say. Don't be so afraid to die that you forget to live for a purpose. Because one thing about this game called life, nobody leaves alive. So make it worth something. And if you have some kids, some proteges, help them to get involved so that we will have the leaders that we need. So we are not forced again to pick the lesser of two evils, but the most qualified. so that we're not just picking someone because she's a woman or because they say they believe in sexual, equality, or they're going to fight to restore abortion, or any of the things that people say. Ladies, I brought up the first part about dating because when it comes to political so-called leaders, once upon a time, remember, our leaders came from church. Even though there was supposed to be a separation of church and state, and a Republican Party, one of the strongest contingency is the religious rights. So just like that guy who's dating you, that so-called political ambitious person, be it man, woman, white, black, Puerto Rican, Haitian, straight, gay, club foot, or peg leg, they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. But look at what they've done in the past. If they're a tiger, they're not going to change their stripes. If they're a snake, they're either going to bite or they're going to constrict. And last but not least, it's always important. I wish you love. I wish you peace. Two fingers to the sky. And like your man, yeah, Grace. I'm out of here, folks. Good night. It's been fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Love you to death. All you got to do is love me back. Have a good evening. Enjoyed as always. This flu. Girl, what you doing with the flu? Come here, I got something for you. Right here. This nah, man. I might call and check on you. I might call and check on you. But I ain't gonna make you talk right now. Corey Booker, we'll have to have a talk about that. Folks, April is one of the people. I'm gonna introduce April to these this YouTube folks. April thinks she knows a little something. She's convinced that Trump is going to jail. We have a bet. So I'm saying this in front of everybody. When he does not go to jail, you owe me dinner. As always, it's important love, peace. I'm out of here. It's been good, folks. I'll talk to you later. Let me get this together. Good night.